What's up, this is Scro. I'm gonna show you how I made Pits. It's a production I made a few months ago, and I wanna go over how I made all these big, huge, fat, meaty drops. So let's do it. So, the most important part, of course, is the synthesizer. Let's see how we got that sound. I am using Impulse. So this has two oscillators, oscillator 1 and 2 right here. Both of the shapes are on saw waves. Most importantly, that second synthesizer, just a tune, just a little bit. So this is a synthesizer fully in tune. This is a little out of tune. Just a little bit fatter. The other thing I got going on is I have this little pitch bend in the beginning of each note. You can kind of hear it kind of move up like that. Let's listen to the actual notes that this synthesizer is playing, because to me that's super important. So at the base of it, this is just a C major chord, but I got some other crazy notes in there. So we got C, G, D, E, and B. So I'm gonna call this a major 9 chord. And I have this nice voicing of it where it's not just stacked thirds. I'm not just kind of playing one note after the other. I kind of moved all the notes around. Just figure out what this chord is, just because it'll be nice. A lot of dissonance right there. I love that. We got A, E, B, C, and G. This is an A minor chord at its core, but we got some other crazy extensions in there. That B right there, right next to that C for some crunchiness. And we have a G for a minor 9 chords. The first one was a major 9, this one's a minor 9. It's not spelled out in just your normal thirds. I kind of moved all the notes around to have a cool voicing, a little bit more spaced apart. But I do really like that B and the C right next to each other. So this chord, this is my favorite chord, a minor 11 chord. E, B, D, F sharp, G, A, D. So all together, this is an E minor 11 chord. So if we put that all together, so the other super important thing in the drop is, of course, the bass. And I'm the most laziest person when it comes to bass, but at the same time, I'm super efficient. So here's my sub bass sound. This is literally, check this out, one plugin on here. And this one plugin is a pulse width. That's right, that's what I use for all of my sub bass, is I have the most simplest synthesizer I can find, and I just use a sine wave or a pulse wave, whatever you want to call it. And I just make it play nice and low. So another important thing about this is the envelope that we're going to use. If I set all of this to the normal envelope, again, the envelope is when you play the note, what happens after you press the note, and then what happens when you let go. So we want the note to start right when we hit the note, right? Otherwise, it'll swell into it. That's cool for other sounds. But what I want to do, so I'm going to turn the sustain all the way down, and I'm going to let the decay kind of jurisdict how the decay works. Doesn't that make sense? Okay, so the less I have to decay, the faster it's going to decay down to its sustain. So in this way, it kind of sounds almost like a bass guitar. When you play it, it eventually decays down. And I also gave it a little bit more release, so the times when I do let go of the note, it doesn't have this harsh click, or it pops off unnaturally. And that's my bass, so we put that together with everything else. We got all that going on. Of course, that kick and that cymbal is really giving it a nice impact too. Okay, so if you notice, there's kind of this pumping in and out. And that's actually half automation and half side chaining. I ended up side chaining it to the kick, but I figured out, you know, I actually still want a little bit more dipping right there. So you can see that dip right there. have a lot of stuff in this sidechain group. So let's check out what the other stuff's going on in there. So for this arpeggio, it's just a super simple square wave. And I have this MIDI arpeggio before it. So anytime I play a note, it'll kind of go back and forth between whatever notes. So I'm really just playing chords, and it's just arpeggiating through the chord. And the other synth we have in this sidechain thing is what I call the yummy synth. Crunchy chords. I love those chords. So again, this is my impulse synth, and the trick to this is just figuring out where you want the filter to be at. For those of you who don't know, the filter is the most important part of a synth. It really gives it its characteristic. You can have one sound and change the filter on it, and it'll be a completely different sound that you'd use for something else altogether. I have it automated, so I'm going to change the filter right here, but we can kind of listen what happens when I mess around with it. Additionally, this synthesizer has an envelope on its filter, and all that means is every time you play a note, something's going to happen. So when I have the envelope on the filter, what it's going to do is every time I play the note, it's going to open that filter as soon as I play it. So I'm going to loop this one measure over and over. I'm going to mess around with the attack for the envelope of this filter, and we can see how fast it opens up every time the note plays. So it's opening up really slow. We can't hear the full extent of the sound. Now it's opening up faster. We're able to actually hear the end result. Open it up all the way. It's just kind of open the whole time. Cool, so let's check out the notes that are in these chords. Let's see, we have A, E, C, and G. That's my classic minor 7 voicing. And then I just kind of move those up in the key. Same voicings, with the exception of this last one. That is most definitely a minor 11 chord. So we have E, B, F sharp, G, and A, a nice cluster right there, and then D. So can't get enough of minor 11 chords, honestly. Okay, let's talk about this. I have a riser called Carpan LFO. Let's listen to that. This is sort of like my reverse cymbal sort of sound, where it's a riser into the drop. So what's going on is I have this tire screech sound, and all I did is I made it loop. So I took the beginning from there and the end right there, turned the loop on, faded it. So it's kind of this constant thing going on. So let's talk about this dope drum beat in the chill part. Super simple beat, and it's literally just a loop. And all I did was I did a low pass on it. That's the beat originally, and that's what it is then. And I also open it up for the next part, so it's nice and loud. So this is really interesting, how I ended up doing this. I had this idea that I wanted a sound to consistently just get faster and faster, and a cello-rondo, if you will. The problem is with all these grid lines, I couldn't really properly, off of the grid, just make it go faster. So this is my solution to that. This is just a sample of noise, okay? It's just a sample of noise. So what I went ahead and did, it's a little bit weird, stick with me. I have this audio to MIDI drum trigger. Okay, so what happens is that every time there's a sound, it's gonna actually trigger a MIDI note, okay? But with a consistent tone of sound, like this brown noise, it would usually just go, and there would be no end to what happened. So what we have is this retrigger interval little fader on here. And what that means, right now it's set at 200 milliseconds. So it will not allow something to be triggered unless 200 milliseconds has gone by. Even if there's a consistent tone, which would, if there was a consistent tone, it would just go. What we're doing is we're taking that retrigger interval and we're saying every 200 milliseconds, that's the time that we're gonna take to actually re-trigger this. When we take that and we slowly automate it right here in this blue line, we automate it to get faster and faster. It allows that re-trigger interval to get smaller, which allows the trigger to be triggered faster and faster, right up into almost audio range. So what I'm doing is I'm just triggering a kick drum. Additionally, I have a filter on it that's just kind of opening up the high end, making it a little bit more dramatic, and just to make it a little bit crazier, I added this delay on it. So now, not only is it triggering one, the delay is making it have all these other weird noises on it. So for anyone that doesn't know, this track is pronounced Pits, P-I-T-S, and it's short for the word pizzicato. And pizzicato just means when you pluck on a string. In this case, it's a violin, and I'm literally plucking on a string. How creative is that? I mean, I just like took the word that it is and I named it the track. Anyways, I don't have much more to say about that. Go ahead and check this song out on Spotify if you want to listen to the whole thing. If you have any other questions for me, send me a message or a comment. Do whatever you're supposed to do to get my attention, and I'll answer your question. I'll make a video for it. I don't really care. Whether it's production or theory or chords or this or that or the other thing, just let me know. Peace.